Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime episode review. This one's going to be for episode 69, which is called Super ChoCho Love Upheaval. Last episode of this three-part arc, and overall I thought, another perfectly okay episode. Probably more good than just completely average or not really worth much. I don't think it was the greatest ending to this arc, in that I maybe expected a little bit more out of the plot, a bigger reveal than just the actors trying to get more publicity. But for what it was overall, I thought it was a solid little arc to give ChoCho some extra kind of character development, to give Mitsuki actually some character development as well, and just be a solid enough episode of the show. So when it really came down to it, the big end reveal was that Ashina was actually behind the kind of threats and so on. She was getting written off the show, and she felt her star was fading because of this, and Tomura was just moving on to basically picking the next actress to join the show. So she felt that she could really big things up by kind of being the one to look like she saved the day, saved the production of this show right at the end, and that would make everyone want to basically hire her, would make her one of the biggest stars in the industry, something like that. But it turns out she was actually the one behind this in the first place, and they obviously ended up finding this out. We as the audience got a shock, but the idea was that most of the characters actually figured it out, because they did capture the ninja guy who came in and was behind most of the actual action and threats. So that was interesting. I played into what was the overall theme of this arc, which was basically the don't judge a book by its cover. The idea of acting as someone different plus acting in general, and how that plays into both Tomura, Ashina, and ChoCho as characters. In that Ashina, you just thought she was just a rude standard movie star in the first episode. The second episode you see that she's actually super hardworking, but then in this one you find out that okay, but she's actually a combination of all of them, but the true intention was to ultimately just become a bigger star. Even though she felt it was somewhat justified, because Tomura, as much as maybe he's this kind of jerk character who you really can't get behind because of the way he treats girls especially, there was nothing evil as such about him, and I suppose that was the overall arc kind of leading you astray on him, that because he is this personally not the best character, doesn't necessarily mean he's a villain or evil or is behind all of this, and he actually wasn't. He just has this very movie star actor persona, and is overly involved in the show and what's going on in terms of choosing everything, and not really helping out the other actors on the show. So that was that. And then ChoCho, I liked in a way what they did here to sort of resolve it, in that Sarada couldn't quite get through to ChoCho about all of this. She was getting frustrated with everyone, basically saying, none of what you're doing here is helping us in any of these missions. Can you please just revert to your normal form while we perform this mission normally? And she was getting frustrated, and it took Mitsuki actually being the one to come out and use a potato chip analogy to basically present the theme of this arc, that it's not about the flavor of potato chip, it's about the essence of the potato chip, the potato itself. If it's made with good quality potatoes, then yeah, sure, the flavor doesn't necessarily matter because it's a good potato chip. But if it's made with rotten potatoes, the flavors won't do anything. It's always going to be a rotten potato chip. So so just presenting that idea of that, you can present a certain outward appearance, but if the core isn't pure, as they kind of say here, there's nothing really there. And ChoCho, this is what kind of really spurns ChoCho on, where in the big action set piece, Tomura is about to be crushed by this falling boulder. She has to transform into her kind of chubby mode, the true form of ChoCho, where she's not just using a technique over and over again to look in her thin mode. She does that partial expansion jutsu and just punches the boulder, and the idea is that it's this, and him seeing this kind of prompts a bit of a change in him, and that Tamura looks like he's actually going to, I suppose, understand and not judge people solely by their looks, and, you know, actively is now interested in ChoCho, honestly, because it's this same person that he's known all this time, but look how confident she is actually in kind of both modes. And that was something that, like, Sarada said earlier on in the episode, of just like, you know, I love how confident you are, basically. I think roughly what I was saying in the first 2 episodes of this arc, that was the dynamic I liked within their relationship, and they kind of brought it up here. I think the only issue ultimately was that, like, did you really need 3 episodes for this arc? It took up a little bit too much time for, I suppose, the amount of substance you're really getting out of this arc overall. And that being that, like, the 3 movie star characters are like, the 2 movie star characters are like fine. What ChoCho learned from this is okay. But was it 3 episodes worth of development? Not quite sure. I think they probably, if they really wanted to, have pushed this into only being 2 episodes, and it still would have had the same impact. In that, honestly, I feel that Mitsuki actually comes out of this arc, like, with more development than ChoCho does, to a degree, because ChoCho just has this arc where she kind of, like, gets a bit away from an aspect of her personality that's already there, and then over the course of this arc basically gets back to the way she was. And I don't really feel that she necessarily, from this arc, has, like, anything new to her character. It was more of just, like, part of her slightly, like, regress. She lost a little bit of confidence in one aspect of her personality, and now she gets that back. Whereas with Mitsuki, because he's such a odd character in the nature of, like, his creation and his kind of family history, the idea that, like, he's actually beginning to sort of, I suppose, learn things from other characters, not just Boruto, who is his son, but actually, like, learning to actually help someone in this situation, and kind of learn something himself about, you know, I suppose, appearances in a way here, because he obviously asked Orochimaru at the start of this arc, "Are you my mother or father?" And Orochimaru basically gave Mitsuki the answer there, in a way that he just said, like, yeah, I've taken on male forms, female forms, it doesn't really matter to me. I am who I am, basically. And that is the lesson, I suppose, we're meant to take away from this arc, is that it doesn't actually matter. And it's shown in the fact that ChoCho goes back to being accepting of everything and so on. Tamura sort of accepts it by the end. And Mitsuki, I suppose, through seeing ChoCho go through all of this, has learned that lesson himself, and actually doesn't care if Orochimaru is his mother or father or whatever. And I like that they just had that moment where he eats the potato chips that ChoCho gave to him, which she says earlier on to Tamura, I only give potato chips to people that I like. And so the fact that she doesn't give them to him, but then passes them to Mitsuki, is obviously a little bit of a... It's a pretty heavy shipping moment, in that the fact that they sort of played on ChoCho and Mitsuki as the main characters here, immediately people are shipping the 2 of them together, and the potato chip as, like, a symbol of that sort of oddly makes sense, but is also very weird at the same time, that, you know, this new ship has its basis in a potato chip analogy. Weird, but, you know, we've had weirder things in Naruto, and I could actually get behind this ship a little bit if, you know, they actually use this as a ship. I wouldn't mind them actually doing something like this. It's going to be a bit of a weird ship, just because Mitsuki as a character, I think it's going to still take a little bit of development from him to, I think, properly understand himself, the idea of, like, romance and stuff like that. Because you can sort of see that he's beginning to see some of the, like, attraction between, like, Sarada and Boruto, and he's sort of, like, basically almost like he ships those 2, but he can't quite see himself as in a relationship. So we'll see how that goes, but yeah, I think those 2 Orochimaru and Mitsuki scenes are probably, like, the best from the arc. And then, you know, a handful of scenes with ChoCho and Mitsuki are also quite good. Beyond that, in this episode, they tried to focus a little bit more on Ashina at the end, of just, like, Konohamaru kind of giving her some confidence that she can still make a comeback after all of this. That once she, gets through, dealing with all of the crimes that she's committed for this, that there is still a chance for her star to rise again. In that, I suppose by the end, the takeaway is that yes, she did this really terrible thing, put people at risk, but that it was all with the intent of trying to help the production on this show, take some of the focus away from Tamura, who was sort of ruining the production himself in some ways, and so on. But yeah, overall, my main takeaway is just that, like, I think this is a perfectly okay arc, but 3 episodes felt a little bit excessive for what it actually was. Next week's episode looks to be really good. I don't know if it's an arc as such. I assume, again, will be something like this, where it's either going to be 2 or 3 episodes. I'd be shocked if they only devote 1 to it, given what it seems to be about. It's going to be Metal Lee focused. Rock Lee is going to be in the episode. We're going to get to see Guy again. And it seems like it's going to be Lee teaching... Rock Lee teaching Metal Lee about the 8 inner gates technique. So the start of him learning the kind of those classic techniques is going to be really, really cool to see. And it seems like they're also, based on the name of the episode, going to address stuff with his anxiety problems, of that he's actually really talented in a way. Like, he has probably more raw talent than probably his father, but he's let down by the fact that he kind of, if anyone's watching him or praises him in some way while he's doing something, he completely loses his confidence and nerve, and the kind of talent goes away at the expense of that. So it'll be fun to see how they properly address all of that. Again, I'd still love to know who Metal Lee's mother is, but I don't know how willing they are to reveal that necessarily right now. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on this arc. Fine, but nothing special. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.